Good afternoon, everyone. It's a beautiful Sunday afternoon. It's the day after my mother's birthday, and I celebrated her birthday within myself yesterday. We lost our mother a year ago, but she still lives within us. I still listen to her spirit. She was a good woman. She dealt with a lot. She put up with a lot, and she gave a lot, most importantly. I have to admit, there's nothing like having your own mom just love on you and teach you all the things you need. And also show you that she can take very good care of her family, including her husband, who was a very demanding man. She was a miracle when it came to being the perfect wife and caretaker for my father. I am listening to a lot of podcasts. I'm learning a lot, and my views on some of it is quite interesting. There's a lot of fear that's out there with what Trump is doing for the country. I don't know why the fear is there. I don't see it any worse than what was here the last 4 years. In fact, nothing was accomplished that I can think of the last 4 years he was here. I mean, that Biden was in office. Now that Trump is in office, at least you see something happening. Maybe that's what's getting people very nervous, because you're not used to all that action. I mean, for real. Now, I'm not saying that he's a saint and nothing's wrong with the man. There probably is some things wrong with him, and people make all these memes and funny videos about him and everything. It's terrible. Actually, it's funny to me, because every president that's been out there, including Barack and Michelle Obama, they made terrible accusations and funny remarks about them. It's something you would be unthinkable. And every time people make remarks about these people, it always has to be within a sexual context or some heinous thing that they did. And I don't believe in any of them. Because why does all of them have some weird thing about them like that? Not all of them can possibly be that weird or that tacky or that whatever you call perverted or whatever. I just don't believe it. It would have been that, it would have leaked out years ago. And whoever was involved in it with them, they're just as responsible. So that's why I don't listen to that. It's just nonsense. If it's true, what can I do about it? Absolutely nothing. And I don't really care. Just don't. Because people who get involved with that and they let it happen, it's their fault. Period. If Trump abused women, they were grown, first of all. And second of all, he probably didn't abuse them. They probably came on to him just like they did to Clinton. And of course, we hold him responsible for what he did. But the woman should be held responsible too. And you know that lady, Lewinsky, that went after Clinton? She had to disappear into the sunset. Nobody heard anything else about her since. And you know what? Rightfully so. She shouldn't have been messing with him in the first place. It's just as much her fault. In fact, I think it's more so, because she knew the man was married. He had an office. He had a reputation to uphold and everything. And just because she was taking advantage of him and his tendencies, it's her fault too. And it embarrassed the whole country. Thanks a lot, Monica. Anyway, I would love to think that we can go beyond all that nonsense, stop being distracted by it, and think about what's really going on. Prices are going down, but you know what? They say eggs are really high. Eggs aren't that high anymore here. Maybe people have their own chickens, and the people who are trying to sell eggs, can't sell them, so they're lowering their prices. Because if you don't sell them in a certain amount of time, they go bad and you can't sell them at all. What a waste. Okay, so, and who likes eggs that much anyway? God, I can't stand eggs. Anyway, I mean, I can deal with them, but not that. I'm not that obsessed with them. If I never eat another egg in my life, I'm fine. Seriously. Anyway, I got some barking dogs out here. If they don't shut up, they always have to be part of the conversation, folks. Anyway, I have no problem with what Trump is doing. Now, that other guy, Elon Musk, I'm not so sure I understand him. He's a nerd. You know, he's very wealthy, and there's something odd about that man. I'm not sure I like it. But then again, we'll have to wait and see, won't we? We'll just have to kick up our heels and wait and see. None of it's upsetting me now. Probably will later if anything major happens, but I don't think it will. As far as Social Security and all that stuff is concerned, you know, I hope they don't mess with that, because a lot of people need it. They worked and put into it, so they ought to get their money. However, they ought to have an alternative if they're not using that program anymore. I do understand that they're sending checks to people who aren't really supposed to get it. I mean, I don't know how that happens, but somebody who's over 100 years old, who's no longer around. Now, it would seem to me, if they're sending it to somebody over that age and they really didn't get it, they're not cashing the check, right? Maybe somebody is posing as unable to pass that check, cash that check or whatever, but it just seems weird that all that money just went into that. And I don't see how many people are that old or, getting that kind of money. If you're over 100 years old, was there any Social Security in the first place 100 years ago? I don't remember when Social Security actually got started. But people who have Social Security paid into it, and they have records of you paying into it. If you didn't pay into it, you're not going to receive it. In other words, if you don't file income taxes and they're not taking that out, you're not getting it. So I don't know. We'll have to see. If there's that much fraud in the system and they find it, that'll be good. I'm all for that. Now, when it comes to other things, like with Zelensky and the Russian situation, Zelensky and Putin, I don't think we ought to be involved in their issues. I just don't care. I mean, we don't need to be spending money on them. We have other things to spend money on. Now, Trump just came in after the fact and decided that he was going to give Zelensky a little spanking. Because, he comes over here with the attitude that we're supposed to help him. No, not necessarily. And when we're spending our tax dollars like this, why don't they let us vote on whether we want to spend the money on that stuff or not? What about that? Why don't we vote on it? I bet you 80% of Americans would say hell to the no. We don't need to spend billions of dollars over there. We're sending money probably to Africa, to various other countries, and I'd rather see the money spent in Africa. But the only problem with African countries, depending on which country it is, they're fraudulent over there too, and that's why the country's staying poor, if some of them are, because the top people are getting it and not distributing the money where it's supposed to go. That's what happened to the Ethiopian money when they were collecting for Ethiopia at one point. I sent money for that and found out they weren't even feeding the people. So I stopped contributing. That was years ago. That was back when I was in my 20s. So I just don't understand why, we need to be able to investigate. We should get a report of the taxes, just like we pay taxes and have to report our money to them. Why don't they report to us? I would like to see everything they're spending all that money on. If it's a toilet seat, if it's military spending, whatever it is, I want to see every penny, because they definitely see it on my reports. Yeah, I file taxes every year and they know what I spend everything on. I don't think it's any of their business. but they see it. Okay, so I think we ought to get the same thing, get the same reports. Now, I'm really not going to discuss this stuff with my fellow co-workers at work because, you know, first of all, you don't discuss politics and religion at work. But there's a few of them that don't follow that rule. And I think it's fucked up because what if you don't have the same opinion as them? They're going to try to get you fired, you know? That's how people are. And I look at it like that. That's not equal opportunity as far as I'm concerned. If I'm for one candidate and they're for another, and they don't like me because I'm from another candidate, you know, that's not fair to me. I wouldn't do that to them just because they liked another candidate. In fact, the ones that they like, it shows to me they're very misinformed. And they choose to stay that way. And they make up their own story as to what they think is really going on. It's not true. Okay, I just think that, you know, they choose to stay ignorant as far as I'm concerned. They don't want to admit that they made a mistake voting for last time. You know what I'm saying? They made a big mistake. All right, now we're all paying for it. Okay, so at any rate, we'll see. And I'm all for letting immigrants come into the country, but they ought to do it fair and square like all the other ones had to get here. And some of them did come here illegally, but they need to be legally sent back out and come back in immediately. Now, I know it costs a lot of money and clout to get over here, and yeah, that's true. But it's true about other countries as well. You can't just walk into someone else's country and all of a sudden you're a citizen. No, there's requirements for it. They even require you to speak their language. And sometimes it's hard to learn a language. You can't do it overnight, that's for sure. So yeah, it takes time to become a citizen and to adapt to another land. And yes, this land was owned by somebody else before Europeans came over here. But you know what? We don't even really know who those people were exactly, because some people are lying about that. Like, they don't, you know, the ones that look like them now, the Native Americans, they're not the real Native Americans. They're not. So, you know, I suspect that they're not the they're Native Americans that have been mixed with Europeans for years on down the line. And they're not, they may still look different than a European, but they are still, you know, more European than they are Native, just because they mixed up with them. So they, as far as I'm concerned, they're a $5 Indian. You know, I mean, it's just, and they've gotten a lot of benefits for that. They've gotten a lot of benefits, and a lot of them did not take advantage of it well. They're still in poverty. They get reparations and free, you know, programs, medical programs. They get free, a lot of education and everything if they take the opportunity to do it. But a lot of them did not. So that's why they're not in any better shape, you know, just because they're getting these payments from the government. So this is something to learn from in case we get reparations as Black Americans, to make sure we don't waste that money away and piss it away, because it's too valuable to just throw it away. We need to make good use out of it, keep our community strong, and keep our families intact. That's really important. But at any rate, I'm going to stop this video now. I'm glad to be able to check in with everybody. You all take care and enjoy your Sunday. Thank you for listening.